Can you imagine this? A nearly undefeated team, the strongest defense in Europe. But is there a hidden weakness, a flaw that could bring this giant down? Have opponents already discovered Bayern Munich's weakness against high pressing, and can Vincent Kompany save his team before it's too late? The answer could change the entire course of the season. Let's begin the analysis.
But before I continue, first, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, if it doesn't put your life at risk. To receive all the latest updates from your channel, Mr. Rovo.
Vincent Kompany's high-risk pressing tactics, exposing Bayern Munich's hidden flaws. Qualitative superiority. With their football intelligence and physical prowess, Bayern Munich usually has the advantage over opponents when playing man-to-man. By adopting an individual marking approach, they can often stretch the attacking team's lines as the opposition attempts to disrupt Bayern's defensive connectivity. High pressing, Bayern starts the match aggressively, pushing their forwards into tight spaces to protect their defenders. This leaves a central space for the goalkeeper to split the central defenders using a midfielder. As the opposing player emerges, you can see Bayern's tactical adjustment. They track the player while switching their marking to cover the free midfielder. All short and medium passing options are accounted for, with the goal being to force the opponent into playing a high-risk pass. This sequence nicely illustrates how Bayern adjusts their press when they fail to win the second ball, immediately transitioning back after losing possession. Once the ball is played forward, the focus shifts more toward restoring defensive structure rather than strictly tracking individual marks. This puts Bayern in a position where they have numerical superiority near the ball, preventing progressive passes while being ready to claim loose balls. 3 players in the first line. When Bayern plays with 3 attackers in the first pressing line, there is usually a greater emphasis on pressing the goalkeeper. The central forward moves up to apply pressure, while his teammates prepare to steer the play toward one side, effectively cutting off the opposite flank. In this scenario, Bayern directs play toward their left side. Once the goalkeeper passes to the right center back, Thomas Müller continues chasing the ball while Leroy Sané stays deeper. With Bayern focusing on their 3-man front line, one might assume they would press the right center back directly. However, Sané waits for the pass to the right fullback before initiating his movement. Once the ball reaches the wing, Bayern's midfield reaction becomes evident. They begin retreating toward the midfield line, anticipating long passes forward. They continuously track their marks visually, and at this stage, the priority shifts to dropping deeper to support first and second balls. Once the ball is played forward, Bayern's tight marking allows them to immediately press and intercept passes as opponents transition into the middle third. It's an aggressive approach that assumes Bayern is tactically and physically superior to their opponents. This strategy puts Bayern's players in situations where they can leverage their qualitative advantages in 1v1 duels against opponents who must prepare for either a long-range distribution or a quick pass played into them under pressure. Man-marking approach. One consequence of Bayern Munich's man-marking approach is that their press is often split between 5, sometimes 6 advanced pressers and the remaining players at the back. This creates a gap between their lines, which opponents may try to exploit. Bayern may attempt to force a long pass, but they are not always properly covered when the opposition executes it. Naturally, there is a disconnect between the front half of the press and the back half. This happens despite Bayern's midfielders being well-trained to drop back immediately upon seeing the opponent play long, as we observe again in this sequence. Aggressive marking style. Bayern's aggressive marking style is a double-edged sword. It makes it difficult for opponents to find short and medium passing options, leading to lower passing accuracy and longer distribution distances. This is a controllable factor because it is the intended effect. Bayern's high press aims to force this scenario. However, it is also a high-risk approach. Any mistake can be costly. Recurring problems. When the gap between the front half of the press and the back half extends to 20 meters or more, Bayern struggles to recover numbers behind the ball and provide support for the second ball. This is an issue Vincent Kompany must address. We see a sequence where the opposition uses an up-back-through pattern to bypass Bayern's press. One of Feyenoord's key ideas was to play the ball toward the highest possible target, who would then lay it off to a teammate facing forward. This pattern allowed the Dutch team to create quick up-back-through sequences, leading to play switches in this scenario. Spacing in the press. When Bayern is beaten on the ground, the biggest issue is that their press spacing allows opponents to pass directly into their highest targets. By permitting opponents to reach their advanced players, Bayern's midfielders and fullbacks must strike a delicate balance between pushing forward to support the high press and recognizing that if the opposition connects with their advanced targets, they cannot allow them to progress behind them. Once this happens, the opposing team can drive toward the next defensive line, knowing Bayern has left their backline exposed. Conclusion: watching Bayern Munich's attempts to regain possession, many of their recoveries come through counter-pressing. However, when they rely on an organized high press, that is where they tend to struggle. Their approach is aggressive and will undoubtedly cause problems for many teams. By eliminating short and medium passing options, Bayern typically forces opponents to direct their play into higher areas of the pitch. But this is part of the problem Kompany and his team must solve. The aggressive man-marking system and the large gaps between the front and back halves of the press often provide opponents with clear outlets to reach their advanced targets. Once that pass is played, it becomes a race. Will Bayern's midfield intercept the layoff, or will the opposition's midfield exploit the available space and enable their teammates to attack? If ever there was a time to address a flaw before it becomes fatal, it is now. Bayern Munich's high press needs some fine-tuning. This is the moment for Kompany to refine his team's approach and solidify their defensive structure ahead of crucial Bundesliga and Champions League matches.